Blackthornprod, a YouTube channel that teaches beginners about game development and also helped me pass high school. I'm serious. Their game dev tutorials helped me finish my high school project, which we needed to present to teachers at the end of the year.
1 year ago.
So they started a Pass the Game challenge, where X amount of devs get a limited amount of time to make as much progress on the game as they can before they have to, pass the game to another developer. They're also not allowed to communicate with each other, bringing another layer of challenge to it. I decided to play all 6 games that they've made so far and rank them from worst to best. For the 6th and last place we have Spider. You play as a Spider Queen, and your goal is to defeat the Bee King in order to get his crown. To achieve that, you raise an army of spiders. Game loop is pretty simple. You defeat a bee soldier, take their corpse, and turn it into larva food, which then evolves your spider soldier. You also get souls by killing enemies, which you can use to buy various upgrades. Now, some of you who watched the Pass the Game series might be confused by the ranking, since the game is one of the better looking ones, at least in my opinion. While it has an interesting art style, decent controls, and even involved the community, the main problem for the game is that it simply doesn't work. At first I played the game on my browser, and just when the Bee King was about to die, he made a low HP copy of himself, and when that copy was about to die, it made another copy, and so on. It also didn't help that his attacks were able to get to me while I was in the spider nest, a safe zone. So I thought I was the reason the game bugged, and decided to download it. Then I noticed there are 2 versions, the final version and what I'll dub LX version. So I played both versions. Final version was the same as the one in the browser. That includes the bug with the Bee King, meaning you, or at least I, couldn't physically beat the game, no matter how many times I killed the Bee King. So I tried the LX version, and it's a bit different from the first version. For starters, there's this transform mechanic, which replaces the hunger. You and your spider soldiers can also transform into different classes by eating different colored food. You have Worker, Hunter, and Shell. You can also kinda navigate your army, though I didn't find much use for that. While this version did work, I just didn't like it that much. It was definitely interesting, however the main problem with that version is that you can't beat it with your soldiers, which is the entire point of the game. The only way to beat it is for you to keep transforming yourself into a shell spider and slowly chip away Bee King's HP. It takes a while and unfortunately it's quite boring. For those reasons I put it in last place. Martian Mayhem is my 5th place. It's a multiplayer game where you and your friends each control a spaceship and destroy enemies or yourselves for money. The player with the most money when the time runs out is the winner. It is a very simple game and I didn't find anything wrong with it. I just found other games more enjoyable. A lot of it has to do with the fact that it's supposed to be a game to play with multiple friends. I asked one of my friends to play it and we both didn't have much to say about it. We didn't come across any of the bugs and the gameplay was quite fun, though I wish there was more to it. I believe this game would work much better as one of those .io games with public lobbies and maybe different skill classes. Other than that, it was pretty fine experience. Maybe it would be ranked higher if I played with a full lobby. 4th place is Titan Smasher. Titan Smasher is a first-person 3D game with a great concept. You're on a time limit and you have to do everything in your power to farm resources and prepare for Titan's arrival. That includes mining gold and stone, as well as collecting blood from nearby enemies. You can collect blood by bouncing enemies' dead corpses in the meat grinder, or just with the old-fashioned American way. You then use gold and stone to craft walls and towers, which use blood as a projectile to hurt the Titan. I'm a sucker for giant enemies, so this game seemed right up my alley. However, it's a 4th place for a reason. The game is a bit too easy. You can defeat the Titan with just 1 tower, and regular sized enemies are kind of a joke. I also found no use for the trees. The hardest thing in the game is battling the controls. I didn't like mining and attacking being binded on the same key. I really think if there was a hotbar with like 1 being attack and 2 being mining, the game would feel much better to play. Refilling towers is also the same key as building, which made me build a wall by accident a couple of times. Well, actually, almost every time. The dash, however, was a great feature. Overall, the game would be higher on the list if the controls were just binded differently, and the game was a bit harder, but it's still a good game nonetheless. Also, while my time isn't the greatest, I did manage to beat Liam's time, so you know, got a gamer right here. The bronze medal goes to Piece by Piece. You're controlling this alien creature thing who is flying a spaceship. I think. I'm not sure, I haven't watched the series in a while. You fly around, shoot enemies for money, and use money to buy upgrades. You put said upgrades on your ship, however your ship has limited space, you have to be careful where you place them. It's a very simple concept executed really well. I honestly wish this was a mobile game so I could play it on the tram, kill time. However, I do have a couple of nitpicks. I really wish music would ramp up after some time to reflect the increase in difficulty, and I really would want to be able to either change your upgrades around the ship or just switch upgrades entirely. Maybe make switch more expensive or something if ruining difficulty is what you're worried about. Other than that, I really enjoyed the game. Silver goes to Mana God. You play as a god who defends his castle from average Genshin players. You command your people to collect resources or to fight for you. You can also use the holy fire to burn the sinners. I really wish more games let you interact with the enemies with your cursor like that. Honestly, that feature alone puts the game high up. The music, art style, and gameplay all feel great and fleshed out. I didn't find any bugs, and honestly, I struggled to critique the game. It's also probably most replayable on the list, if you don't count speedrunning that is, so I highly recommend this game. However, I have to give the gold medal to the Centipede. You wake up in an abandoned facility with a crossbow in your hands. How did you get there is unknown. Outside of the room you woke up in is a note. The centipede's head must be riddled with arrows. Now, your goal is to kill the centipede and get out of this hellish nightmare. You have to collect batteries for your flashlight and pills so you don't go insane. The game's atmosphere and sound design is by far the best out of all of these games. The visuals also didn't disappoint. There is also no janking controls, which is a big plus. Now, unlike the last game, I do have some criticism, and those are bugs that kinda break your immersion, because they just look silly, and difficulty of the game. You can turn off your flashlight to save battery, but you don't really have the reason to. Resources are incredibly easy to find. There also seemed to be some kind of a story here, which is great, don't get me wrong, but I couldn't for the life of me find more than 3 or 4 tapes. So while the game isn't perfect, the visuals and sound are so well done that I do believe it deserves first place. However, I wouldn't really mind putting Mana God there instead. Honestly, I'm more surprised that I liked the Centipede in the first place, since I'm a bitch and I can't handle horror games. Well, that's it for the video. If you agree or disagree with the ranking, make sure to let me know. And yeah, subscribe, I guess.